This episode of the Better Every Shift podcast is sponsored by The Fire Store. Learn more about getting the gear you need at prices you can afford by visiting thefirestore.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Better Every Shift podcast. My name is Aaron Zamzow. I'll be your host, like it or not. I am here to help you, help your organizations, help yourself do that one little thing that we like to say and call getting better and doing some improvement for the fire service. Today, I'm going solo. I don't have the commander with me, but I do have a good friend, colleague, and mentor. I like to call him the Chief of Chiefs. We have the Bozeman Fire Chief, Josh Waldo, who also is now the new president of the IAFC. I shouldn't say new anymore. You kind of have that new president smell off you. Chief, welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Man, thanks, brother. It's great to be back. Things are good. Yeah, we've passed 30 days, so the honeymoon phase is over with the presidency. We're full speed ahead working now. Was surprised to get on here and see you're unsupervised. I don't know that this is a good plan.
I told Janelle, she said, hey, do you and Josh want to do this alone? And I said, well, will you allow that to happen? Number one. So we're going to give this a go, but it's no holds barred. Because whenever you and I talk, we were talking about this off camera as we always do. And we kind of looked at each other and you said, hey, Zam, shouldn't you be recording this? Isn't this what the program is about? But it's about, being honest about the challenges we have in the fire service, about what solutions, we could and can come up with. It's about working together, whether we agree or disagree. So now you're president, you're sitting in that seat, man. I was there when you got, when they handed everything over. It was really cool. You had the family there. You had a bunch of your mentors there. Is it what you thought it would be so far?
So far, yeah. I mean, but again, it's still too early to tell. And I know that sounds crazy. It's a short term. You're only the president for, 12 months, and I'm a month in, so I'm down to 11. But yeah, it's kind of been what I expected. A lot of communication with members from across the country, working with staff of the IFC, talking to the divisions and the sections, and really just trying to stay in tune with what's going on in the fire service across the country. Monitoring the massive wildfires that we've had pop up here in the West to, just the recent the hurricane and how that's impacting, really my home area. They're Eastern Tennessee, Western North Carolina. So, yeah, it's been about what I expected, but I'm not going to pretend like I know it all at this point.
Well, I know there's a lot of travel, and people might not know like all the different sections and divisions that the IFC has. Can you just give me a little synopsis of what you mean when you say that?
Yeah, so when we talk about the divisions, the IFC is broken up into 8 divisions, and they're geographical. So you have the Western, the Canadian, the Southwestern, Missouri Valley, Great Lakes, Southeastern, New England, Eastern. I talked really fast, so I hope I got them all in there. But, there's 8 of them, and they're all spread across the country. They work close together within their region to accomplish things, but they are part of the IFC. We're what's called a federated model. So we all come together to make the IFC. Within the IFC, then you have a number of sections. I'm not even going to try to list them all, but the sections are more specific. Like, what's your niche? And so a couple of examples would be the fire and life safety section. So if codes and standards, community risk reduction, if that's your thing, fire and life safety is the section for you. Or if you're a volunteer or combination officer, then the VCOS section is probably for you. So they're the sections are very specific to, a topic or something that's going on for people to join. So when you join the IFC, you're automatically in your division based on where your, geographical location is, but you can pick sections and join as many sections as you want and get engaged as much as you want within the IFC.
Do you have to be a chief to join?
You do not have to be a chief. Thank you, brother. That's a softball. I'll swing at that one. No, it is open to anybody who is trying to make themselves just a little bit better every day. There's tons of leadership. There's tons of training. Anybody who's really either in leadership or aspiring to be in leadership, the IFC has something for them. So getting involved, meeting people, going to the conferences, being a part of your division, your sections, endless opportunities. In fact, one of the biggest sections that the IFC has is the company officer section, and it's comprised of people who are captains, lieutenants, battalions, maybe even people who are just in that acting role and getting ready to make that transition. So, yeah, it is not a 5 bugle only club. That's not what we are. We're really open to anybody who's in leadership or aspiring to be in leadership.
Yeah, really about, you said people that want to, think about maybe the next step, or I might not be in a chief position. I am in a leadership position within my organization. How can I utilize that, position, learn more to make more of a, positive impact within the organization. Sometimes even the fire service, right? You go a different route than that. So your job then is you got to manage all these, right? You got to make sure they're all talking to each other. Or, people, maybe they're not in agreement, but they got to be on the same page, right? Like, how often are you on the phone and in meetings?
I'm on the phone a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, quite a bit of travel. But I'm finding that one of the key roles of the president is being that conduit of communication and information to keep everybody on the same sheet of music, same talking points, because a lot of the stuff that we're trying to impact, it may have to do with legislative changes, whether that's at your state level, whether that's at the congressional level, maybe with policies that need to be changed. And the worst thing we can do is be divided and have 8 different messages or different talking points from one group to the other, because particularly if you talk about Congress and they're hearing 6 or 7 different avenues of how we should get there, that makes it really easy for them to just say, well, you folks need to go figure out what it is you want, because we can't with so much different information coming at us. So yeah, keeping everybody in lockstep, man, that's a big part of what this role as president does.
Yeah, unified front, unified. Actually, it's not just about the front; it's about the back end too, right? And
Yeah.
which is probably even more important. So, what are the big priorities that you're finding? You addressed a couple of them right when we started, but what are the top priorities that you're kind of getting and having more of the conversations about?
Well, I always start any of these conversations with communication. You got to make sure that people know what's going on, what the IFC is doing, how we're working on things, where our partnerships are, where can we continue to collaborate. Communication, and that's not going to stop. And it didn't start with me. That's every president's role, is to keep the lines of communication open as a top priority. From there, I mean, if you want to get into some specifics, we got some codes and standards challenges right now. The one I think most folks are dealing with from across the country, that doesn't matter, big department, small department, lithium ion. What are you doing with these fires that you're having? What are you doing with people who bring a battery pack to your fire station? They're like, oh, how do I dispose of this? We're trying to work through that. There's some legislative stuff that we're trying to get accomplished to make sure that what is being sold in the country is tested and approved by a third party. That's super important. In addition to that, most folks, if you hadn't already heard, there's a huge push right now to go to a single stairs, or what we're calling making a lot of buildings one way out. They want to eliminate one of the staircases in some of these buildings up to 6 stories. And, anybody who's been in the fire service long enough I don't even have to get into detail. Do you want 1 stairwell or 2 stairwells if that 5-story building's on fire? You don't even have to talk through this very much, but it's something that's out there. And there's more challenges coming in that space. And then for me, the big one, out west, and it's really not just a Western problem, because we see this in Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, even Nova Scotia, is wildfire. We have a humongous wildfire problem. Here we are, I think it's October 1st today, and there's wildfires popping up, left and right still. And it seems very late, but here we go. And so we've got to figure out what we're going to continue to do in this wildfire space from a mitigation effort, how we're going to manage these fires, because it's a problem that's just, no pun intended, it's spreading like wildfire.
It is, right. It doesn't necessarily affect some people say, that's a West Coast problem. Well, yeah, how we deal with it though is a fire service problem, right? I mean, we have a lot of different natural disasters going on. Like you're drawn in to not only help, departments that are struggling with this, but then be as a resource, correct? Like for the rest of the fire service.
Yeah, and think about just resource management in general when we talk about these big events. These fires pop up in California, and there's a resource request that you just can't even imagine to go help, and then you get fires in the Pacific Northwest, resource requests. So everything's shifting to the west, and now we have one of the most devastating hurricanes that we've seen in a long time just ravage eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and those areas. Well, now we're trying to shift resources back east. I mean, where's the next resource coming from? We have so many things going on, and we know the fires aren't going to stop. And if you're watching the weather, the hurricanes are lining up. And what's next? I'm on a plane on Sunday. I'm trying to keep up with what's going on with the hurricane. I'm watching the fires, and then you see this massive fire breakout in Georgia, and I'm like, man, it never stops with the challenges that face the fire service today. And so we got to remain nimble, and we got to start working together to make sure that we are moving those resources more efficient, because I think anybody who's been involved in any kind of resource deployment movement, we got a lot of room for improvement in those areas, and we know it.
I mean, this is another reason why everybody who wants to, improve the fire service or make the fire service more efficient needs to understand how the IAFC can really, really help in that, right?
Yeah, and I'll give you another example of something that's going on today that's going to impact fire EMS. You got a strike, and we've heard so much about supply chain and what a challenge that's been for the fire service really since COVID. And the early indications from what we're hearing is this may be even worse depending on how long it goes on. And so, what are we doing to make sure that our departments, particularly those of us who provide EMS, what kind of a stockpile do you have of supplies? Can you go 30 days without an order? Can you go 60 days without an order? And, to bring that home to the IFC, our EMS section has been watching this. They actually forwarded me a couple of things yesterday about, hey, here's some thoughts, here's some things we need to be thinking about. I mean, that's part of what we do as an association. And that really goes back to the sections. EMS is watching that. They're trying to keep our members up to speed with this is what's going on, and maybe here's what you should be thinking. Go back to lithium ion and the one-way out buildings, our fire and life safety section. They're constantly working on that to make sure that the entire membership has the latest information that's out there. So, yeah, the association's tracking a number of different things. Some things have been ongoing for years, and some things we have to manage as they pop up, like a labor strike today that quite honestly has nothing to do with fire and EMS, but it's going to have a tremendous impact on us.
It is just like, all this stuff has an impact on us. And as somebody's listening again, I like to bring it back because, I was kind of one of those people way back when I joined the fire service. You'd say IFC, you'd say Chiefs. I'd be like, it doesn't really affect me. I just want to be a better firefighter. But it does affect you from the standpoint of what's coming up to help you become a better firefighter. How can you stay more educated on what the next challenge is going to be? And even in this case, right, how can I make sure I get my uniform? Because the strike is working for stuff like that. But even so, now you look at, okay, strategy, tactics, fire. Me as a firefighter, I'm an officer now, but as a firefighter, I would think like, well, what is the IFC that really impacts me? Well, let's look at that. If they don't push for two means of egress, and we already know lithium ion batteries are starting these fires. Oh, here you have a motorized bike or a battery powered bike in the only stairwell in a four story building. No code against that. That thing starts on fire. Our job, our lives just changed because of that one particular incident, right?
You just painted the worst case scenario, right?
Right.
But it's tremendously likely scenario, though. That's the scary part.
Yes, especially if we don't support organizations like the IAFC and get involved with them. You also said, look, if you're that person thinking right now, I don't think the IFC is doing enough, then get involved.
Mhm.
Get on one of those committees and start to really be a solution to these problems. And that's what I love about you and I have had these conversations, for hours. People are like, hey, come on, it's time to, uh, and you and I may not agree on everything, but um, we do have some great constructive conversations, and a lot of people that you hang around with there, and I've been introduced to do as well. But hit on something like you come up across a lot of people that maybe don't believe the same as you do. Let's dig into that a little bit. How do you approach that?
Open dialogue, man. And that's the thing that goes to solving any problem is communication, right? And yeah, you're right. Me and you've had a number of conversations, and sometimes we don't agree. But I think
Right. I don't think the Volunteers are really going to make it to the national championship this year, but that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Yeah. How did you guys do against Alabama? Moving on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's never personal, and I think that's where we get a little bit sideways sometimes. Is we're trying to have difficult conversations. We're trying to look at things from a different perspective and go, maybe there is a better way to do things than the way we've been doing it. And we sometimes we just got to put our egos aside and maybe see it from a different perspective. I'll tell you right now, I am never the smartest guy in the room, and I never have all the answers. And so having those conversations with people to go, here's the problem, here's what I think, and then listening to other people and taking their feedback or taking their idea. Sometimes you tweak your idea. Sometimes you just throw your idea completely away and go with theirs because you realize it's that much better. But you got to have that open mindset when you start having those conversations. If you're dead set going in of, I don't care what Aaron says, my mind's made up, I'm not going to hear anything different, man, you're really going to struggle. Particularly when we talk about growing, professional growth, personal growth, you've got to have an open mind to see different perspectives, hear different opinions and ideas. Otherwise, you're going to kind of hit your ceiling pretty quick.
Has the last 6 months and being put in this position helped you with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I've always been an open-minded person. I like to talk. I think you know that. So to hear other people,
certain topics, yeah.
To hear other people's perspectives and get input is great. I think for me, one of the big things that I've had to do here in my own department that I'm already seeing tremendous benefits from is I've had to turn loose of a lot of things and just let others in the department just run with it. And are they doing it the way I would have done it? Are they doing it in the order I would have done it? No. Are they getting the same result? Maybe even a better result? Absolutely they are. And so, I've already had that aha moment of like, man, I should have let the reins go more sooner because I've got incredibly talented people. That's why they're in those positions. That's why we promoted them. And man, to watch them now just excel, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's something that you were kind of forced into learning. Do you see that as maybe an issue fire service wide? Is that, hey, our next generation of leaders is there waiting, salivating, ready to step up? Do you see that it's time for maybe others that have been in leadership for a long time to do that?
Yeah, I think the next generation has a ton of energy and they have a very different perspective than we do. And it's going to be hard for us. I mean, I'm by no means saying, yep, just let it all go. It's super simple. It's not. But I do think as we get more comfortable with letting the next generation put their fingerprints on it, do things their way, and quite honestly, it might be a completely different way than we would have done it. Man, I think we're going to be blown away with how good they are. And we've got to learn to look at that as an accomplishment for us, the current leaders of, hey, we hired those people or we promoted those people. We trained those people. We've put them in these positions and let them run. Let them run. The worst thing you can do, what's the old, don't put a racehorse, in a fence, let it run. And I even look at some of our folks who are firefighters right now, 2 or 3 years on the job. And I'm just like, wow, the potential for, that young man or that young woman is just endless. And I look at where they're at 2 to 3 years on the job versus where I am, man, their trajectory is just, it's almost straight up. They have so much potential.
Yeah. They're miles ahead of where we were at that same point, you're saying.
Absolutely. And,
yeah.
I think that's where it goes back to. It is hard to let go and let them run, but be proud of that. As a leader in an organization today, those are your people. You picked them, you hired them, or you promoted them, and take pride in the fact of how good they are and watch them. And one of the greatest successes of a leader is seeing your people be successful. So, that to me, I'll tell you, the fire chief that I had in Tennessee at one point used to get asked him, what's the biggest accomplishment in your career? And I'll never forget, he said 13. And I'm like, Chief, I don't get it. What's that? He's like, I've had 13 members who have worked for me that have went on to be chief officers. And this was a guy who had been on the job for 40 plus years. And his most proud achievement was the success of his people. So let your people run, man. Let them run.
So there's probably another half too, or some other people that are thinking, and I got to ask the question though, that there's this old guard, right? They talk about old boys club. And sometimes when you associate unions, IFC, IFF, like Metro. Now look, folks, I'm just generalizing it, but some people like to say, hey, there's still that old boys club, or there's still that old guard. How would you respond to that?
I see it changing, and I see it changing at a pretty rapid rate. We talked earlier about partnerships, and two of the biggest partners within the IFC is the IAFF and the Metro section of the IAFC. And so, the collaboration and the willingness to work together between the IFC and the IAFF right now, it's probably as good as I think it's ever been. A lot of professional courtesy of, hey, here's where we're going. Can we work together? Can we collaborate? A lot of that has to do with, looking at things differently than maybe we would have looked at them 20, 30 years ago. And it's the same thing with the Metro chiefs. The Metro departments have so many challenges that are unique to being in such a large department. But if you look at some of the leadership right now in the Metro, and including our good friend Tricia Wolford, she is not only the first vice president of the IFC, but she's on the board of Metro. You look at some other fantastic chief out there right now, Tiffany Green in Prince George's County, just fantastic. I do think you've seen a shift, and I think it's continuing to some new faces and new places. And with new faces comes new ideas and new ways of doing things. And I think that's important for us to evolve as a fire service if we're going to keep kind of growing and meeting the challenges of whatever's coming over the next 2 to 3 decades.
Yeah. And I see that. I've been very fortunate. I got to follow you around at IFC and watch not only you work a room, but just understand kind of a little bit more about what goes on. And, and I saw a lot of people from different organizations and very good engaging conversations. We're stepping up with new guard and new leadership. So it's refreshing to hear that. But of course, I got to ask those questions. I got to ask, like, what are the biggest challenges you think that the IFC is facing, not maybe in the fire service, but within the old organization itself?
Yeah, and let's take that down one more layer. Let's take that to the department. So someone who's listening to this, who's not a member of the IFC, they're not a member of IFF, and they're like, well, but in my organization, my department, things aren't evolving. Things are stuck. We're still in the 1980s. Be the voice of change, right? And there's a way to do that. You and I have talked about this a lot, about how do you constantly apply pressure to make things better without kind of going over the line to where it's like, all right, this isn't professional, this isn't productive. You've got the passion and you've got the right mindset, but your delivery's off, or you're asking the wrong questions to the wrong people. So there is a line, but yeah, if you're in an organization where you're like, I know things could be better. First off, I would say find a mentor, someone that you can bounce ideas off of outside of your organization and say, here's where we're at. Here's where I think we need to go. Get some feedback and then talk through it. Say, I want to go to the chief. I want to go to the captain. I want to go to whoever and make this recommendation. And I'm thinking doing it in this way. Having that outside person to kind of bounce those ideas off of, it'll make you so much more effective. And me and you've been doing that our whole careers, brother.
Yeah. I've been, you mentioned Trisha, Chief Wolford. She's kind of helped me with a couple of projects, and as you have, and I'm very fortunate enough to have like even Chief Fennessy, like, hey, I can send them a message, and yeah, you guys have coached, and so when you're saying that, I was like, he's talking about me right now, but you hit it on the head, because that same thing happened to you, right? You had mentors, and they were there that day that you took over the helm and the reins, and you could just see how grateful you were for that. And going back to that person that's listening, maybe it's time to get out of your department from a standpoint of start to reach out, make contacts outside of your department, because you can bring some things back in. Look for the mentors. Maybe they don't even have to be in fire, right? Did you have some mentors that weren't in fire?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of my biggest mentors throughout my career never rode a fire truck. They're just leadership people, or they might've been tied to the fire service, but never put on bunker gear. Right. And that gives you perspective. I've got probably my biggest mentors, Vicki Pritchett. We all call her Miss Vicki, and Miss Vicki never rode a fire truck. She's never probably, flowed water out of a hose, but she knows leadership. She knows relationships. She knows communication, and she's tremendous. Even to this day, I'm texting her all the time. Hey, this is going on. Here's what I'm thinking. Could use some feedback, could use some guidance. And she's fantastic. And there's numbers of people. I've got some folks that I've, met along the way in local government, public works directors, city managers and whatnot, who have just, to this day, I still lean on them to say, hey, sorry we hadn't talked in 6 months, or we hadn't caught up, but could use some input. And, those relationships are invaluable as you go through your leadership journey.
Yeah. I've heard numerous times, like public works and some of the other city departments for chiefs at your own, organization, they look out to those departments because sometimes some of those people understand how to get things done. Oh. You can piggyback, right? Like, hey, Parks and Recs people, they can get stuff done. See how you as a fire chief can kind of take their techniques, right?
We used to have a public works director here in Bozeman. I learned so much just from watching him, watching the way he conducted himself at commission meetings, watching the way he conducted himself in, like department head meetings. I remember one night I watched him, and I even called him on it when it was over. They asked him a question at the podium. He knew the answer. I knew the answer. But he took a long pause. I think he put his glasses and chewed on them for just a second, and then he provided the answer. And I asked him, I said, why the long pause? You knew the answer. He said, I had to make him think I could think quickly on my feet. And I was like, it was a show, but he knew what he was doing. And it just, the way he delivered, his delivery of that information was so impactful. Whereas he could have just said, yeah, the answer is boom. But just the way he did it, it made it so much more impactful. I was like, that's pretty cool. I've learned a lot from him and still keep up with him today. He's gone from the city, but he's one of those people that I'll call up, be like, hey, sorry we hadn't chatted in a while, but I got a question.
The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision we make as a company is about you, our customer. We wouldn't be where we are today without you, and we don't take that lightly. We understand that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. Our goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit us at thefirestore.com for everything but the truck, and shop our family of brands, including Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more. Now let's get back to the show.
And for those that don't know about what you've done in Bozeman, I'm going to brag a little bit about you because I got a chance to go see you. We did that Spartan race together, by the way. We're going to do another one in Bozeman. For those that are listening, if you don't think that this Chief Waldo puts his money where his mouth is, I challenged him to do it, and he said, yeah, you coming out here? Sure enough, there was a lot of rain and a lot of mud, but we made it through. And the fun part about that journey was you and I, all of a sudden, we couldn't turn it on. We started mentoring. You started mentoring a couple people right there in the race. Like, no, man, you got this. You got the long legs. Just watch Sam do this, which probably wasn't a good idea because I felt like over this. And this young lady just kind of like stepped over me and went, yeah, you're right. This was easy. He made this look difficult. But in Bozeman itself, your growing population, you got a couple of stations coming. You got a safer grant for more people. You also really have done a great job with setting your stations up to be more healthy. You got good weight room facility. Your decon is state of the art, and so like how is that kind of transferred all your successes in Bozeman? Are you seeing, some similar things and paths now with IAFC that you're trying to take?
Well, first off, the success here in Bozeman, that's not me, man. That's the entire team. It takes, and it's not just the fire department. When I say the team, we've got so many people in the community, other departments in the city who've helped us. We've done a lot. You're right, Sam. We've built a bunch of stations, replaced a bunch of equipment. These stations are state of the art, particularly when it comes to health and safety. So I can't take that credit, brother. I'm just part of the team to kind of get that done. But I guess if there's how does that transfer to the IFC? It's the same way of I can't do anything by myself. You got to have a team. You got to have good people around you, and I can set maybe the direction or the vision of where I want to take us, but then I got to continually pull the right people in at the right time, keep the team motivated, have those hard conversations about, I know that's how we've done it in the past, but maybe it's time to do it differently for a number of different reasons. And so, yeah, I think taking the same approach to leading the association that I do leading a fire department is it's natural for me. And quite honestly, it's the only way I know to lead. I've been successful at it, I think. And so I'm just going to kind of carry that over into my role as the president.
Yeah. And you have. I've got to talk to a lot of your members behind your back. I talked to them. I said, hey, tell me what do you really think of Chief? And honestly, they didn't know who I was. So, they had no reason to lie. And they super, energetic about the future there. And I was even talking trash to him. I just said, this 50-year-old guy just did this Spartan race. Where were you guys? You saw me talking trash to your department over there. But they respect you. And, and I think that will transfer, has transferred. Let's talk about transferring though, because you're following Chief Butler. What are some of the things that he kind of handed off to you and said, hey, I got these things started. What are you kind of continuing where he left off?
I think two of the ones that I would highlight right out of the gate, it goes back to our partnership with the IAFF, and that's the Labor Management Alliance and the Wellness Fitness Initiative. So both of those long-standing programs, probably when I say long, too long without a refresh or an update. Great programs. They've done tremendous over time. It's time to refresh and reset and make sure that those are still current and good for the future. So, we're working on that now. Having that strong labor management alliance within your own organization is critical. I just told you I can't do anything without my team here. And so for us, labor management here, we're going to have those hard conversations, may not always agree, but we're going to be respectful of each other and we're going to be professional and keep working together for our department. So when departments struggle with that, having that LMA resource from the IFC that can step in and kind of help get things back on track is important. And then, the Wellness Fitness Initiative, brother, I don't even have to preach that one to you. You get it. You live it.
I do.
Making sure our members are prepared, making sure that they're healthy, not just for the day on the truck, but when their days on the truck are over. One of the worst things that I see is folks put in, the 20 to 30 year careers and physically they don't take care of themselves or we don't provide them the resources to take care of themselves. And then they get to retirement and they really can't enjoy it. So those would be two big ones that I think are important. And I know that Chief Butler's super interested in and proud of.
This is probably the toughest question I'm going to ask you is, let's say we're having this conversation a year from now and you've handed off to Chief Wolford. In order for you to say your year in your tenure was a success, what would that look like to you? I mean, what certain things do you want to accomplish?
Obviously I've kind of beat this horse to death, but I want to make sure that communication is just as good, if not better, than when I stepped in the office, than when I handed over to Tricia. I don't want anyone to be guessing what the IFC is doing or what direction we're going in. I do want to figure out a way to get more support for our actions on codes and standards. I firmly believe we save more lives with a code book than we ever will with an axe and a ladder. I'll argue that with folks all day long, but we continue to lose those battles. So I don't, by any stretch of the imagination, think we're going to solve all these problems in my remaining 11 months. But if I can get the momentum going to where in 4 or 5 years I can look back and say, you know what, that got done today, 5 years later, because of something I started during my term, that would be super rewarding. And for me, it's the same thing with wildfire space. We got to move resources better. We got to figure out this insurance issue right now that we're seeing in a lot of states where people are getting non-renewed or canceled because of their risk tolerance. I'm not going to fix any of that in 11 months. I'm not, and I know that. So I've got to plant those seeds today, hand that off to Tricia, and then even hand that off to Steve after her, and whoever comes after them. And a lot of these things, I think that's the thing with being the IFC president is you'll start something that you won't finish. And you're going to have to look back in 4 or 5 years and go, hey, I had a hand in that. And I think that'll kind of to be determined. So I guess the one that I can measure, though, is that communication factor. If I can leave office and people go, he was honest, he was upfront, didn't pull any punches, didn't hide anything, and kept us in the loop, that'll be the immediate win. The rest of it, I think it's going to take time to kind of see the fruits of that labor.
Yeah. What's the advantage? What's one advantage and one disadvantage of the terms that you guys serve?
Well, the disadvantage is it's quick, right? I mean, it is 1 year and you are in and out. I think that's part of why, though, you saw with Chief Butler, myself, Chief Wolford, it was like we ran as a trio to say, listen, we know it takes time to get things done. So we're going to start something, but somebody else is going to have to finish it. And so continuity was important to us. And, having Steve come in behind Tricia now is awesome. And right now, the only person that I know that's running is Ernie Malone out of Indianapolis, who's just a fantastic chief and fantastic human being. You will not meet a better person than Chief Malone.
I can vouch. Yes, I've met him a couple of times just in passing, and quite a great individual and character. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, just being able to understand it's quick and you gotta make some decisions and go with it. I do think the advantage, though, is it's a lot, man, to run your fire department. If you got a family at home and be on the road and represent, an association that's representing countries from across the world, almost 12,000 plus members. Yeah, there's a lot. I don't know that someone could be the president for 2 or 3 years without, kind of losing touch with what's going on in their home department.
Yeah. So the year you're saying is fast paced, and because of that, it's hard to do 2 years. It's hard to do 3 years. So the advantage is you get to keep your frequent flyer miles, and that it only lasts a year, so you could go back to to balance. But yeah, I see that too.
Yeah, and Zam, you're on the road, man. You get this, and one thing I don't want to be is I don't want to be the person who at month 7 or 8 is just counting it down. Like, I can't wait to get done. Or I don't want to be the person who's like, oh my God, it's so much. Nope, I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to be the person who looks at it and says, first off, I raised my hand and volunteered to do this. I asked to be in this position. So I knew what it entailed. Well, I knew a little bit about what it entailed. You never know till you're in the seat. But, man, what an honor. What a privilege to get to represent the fire service across the world, have an opportunity to make change. So, yeah, you're not going to hear me be that person who goes, I can't wait till it's over. I'm not. And if you do hear me say that, you got fair reign to tune me up right there on the spot. I know you will. But, yeah.
I'll do it in front of everybody. I'll ask the questions. I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, I got to ask the questions now. Yeah, I'll that's part of the balance, right? You have to have, you had mentioned mentors. Someone said to me that, like, you got to have like 10%, meaning like got to have people, the 10% around you that will call you out when you're not really yourself, right? Like, and I know you have wonderful family. You got your lovely wife. You got your son there. You got people close to you in Bozeman that, as you said, stepped up. Family, like that's all really super important for this year and for this journey, right? Like, what are some other things though that people gave you for advice as you stepped up? You know, we had mentioned Chief Butler, and you had mentioned Miss Vicky. Like, what other things have people told you that you've said, okay, yeah, this helps?
Make it yours, right? Don't go into this role and try to be somebody that you're not. And I'm the same person I've been for the last 23 years in the fire service. I don't know any other way to do it. And so that's, I was saying earlier, I'm trying to lead the association the same way I lead my fire department, and count on people that when they see that I'm a little off course or things aren't firing real well for me that day, to step in there and go, hey, you okay? Something off, and just check in. I think that's been the big one, is make it yours and enjoy the ride. I've had a lot of past presidents who, they tell me it goes quick. It goes quicker than you think. So enjoy it. And that's something that it's almost, I'm requiring myself to enjoy it and realize the privilege it is to serve in this role. And that goes back to what I said. I'm not going to be the person who's complaining or counting it down. I'm going to be the person who goes, at day 366, when I hand it over to Tricia, I want to be able to tell people, it was one of the greatest years of my professional life, and that I got to represent our association and hopefully make things a little better for the future.
Yeah, well, good, buddy. I know you got the energy to do it, and so far, my sources are saying you're doing pretty well. So, and for those that don't know, Chief, like, they could come up to you and say, hey, I heard you on Better Every Shift. Just say hi, say, hey, I liked how you said this, or I didn't like this, or what about that? Like you openly talk to a lot of people. I watched that, and you're open for conversations, and I don't think that'll change. You wore cowboy boots up on stage. That hasn't changed since I've known you in 15, 20 years. You're 100% into the volunteers, whether they're winning or losing. So, you're dedicated. You're dedicated to the family. You're dedicated to the fire service. You're also dedicated to your hometown and teams. So that I don't think is going to change, buddy. But if it does, I'll call you out in front of everybody here.
You misspoke there. You misspoke. You said when the volunteers lose. I don't know that we've done that lately. Just throw that.
Yeah, but I've watched other years where it's been.
Oh, we're going to go to the past. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Hey, I'm a fan, man. I hope they do well this year. They're a cool story. I watched it, right? Baseball. I watched them in baseball with you, and they dominated there. And this kind of leads into one of my last questions before I put you on the hot seat. How do you balance all this, man? Like, how has that been? How are you doing on that front, and what's the key there?
Brother, I'm not going to tell you that it's a balance. It's more of a prioritization. Some days you got to decide, okay, I know today is going to be a 13-hour day, and there's things that just have to get done. And so I'll make you happy. First thing I prioritize is that workout, right? I got to get it in. It's got to be the first thing of the day, or it's not going to happen. So sometimes that's 5, sometimes it's 5:30. If I'm lucky, it might slip to 7 some mornings, but it's got to happen. And then, coming into work, knowing what's got to get done that day versus what can maybe wait till the next day, knowing what the association needs from me that day, knowing what's got to get done at the house. And then all that, you got to have help and you got to trust people. And so, you and I have talked a lot about turning it over and letting the next generation run. And brother, I got to tell you, just what I've seen in 30 days of my team, where I'm really just kind of letting them run. Shame on me. I should have done it a lot sooner because they're fantastic.
Well, you even said they're doing things that are probably a little bit better than what you would have done. But but right, go back to what your chief told you at 13.
Yeah.
Right. What a cool thing that is. It's sometimes you maybe feel like, oh man, maybe they don't need me, but you got them to that position, and I always know we talk about fitness and priority. I do want to call out, your organization. I'm not going to say your organization because I'm part of it. IAFC. I went to the conference with you, and for Chiefs that are listening, I want this point to sink in, and I've been waiting for the right moment. So it was in Dallas. It was a wonderful convention center, a little hot, but right. So I see this line, and it's around this corner. And so I'm like, well, what's everybody waiting in line for? And I walk around the corner, and I got infuriated. It's a line of Chiefs waiting to ride the frickin' escalator. And there is a stairwell in the middle. And you know what I did? As I acted like a 3-year-old kid, and I huffed up the stairs, staring at everyone up that escalator. Now, my point to you and my charge to you is let's get some more workouts and some more breaks for people to do workouts and personal things at some of these conferences. It's just a little side thing, and I'm available to come and do a workout if you want me to. B, for those Chiefs that are listening, help Chief Waldo out by taking action on small things. To me, that escalator thing kind of exemplified what we're doing in the fire service. Every one of those Chiefs probably stands in that line and says, yeah, we need to get better on our health and wellness. Yet you're still standing in a goddamn line waiting for an escalator. It was 3 stories. Use the stairs and take action. And I know that you're smiling because you're like, yeah. I mean, am I right or wrong with that? Am I looking too far into that?
No, it's the little things that you get, a lot of those little moments throughout the day to make a choice, and those choices can have tremendous impacts. And so, yeah, we're in that convention center at that conference for 3 or 4 days, and they're long days, a lot of sitting, sitting in classrooms and, taking a flight of stairs or walking from, one building to the other. It may not seem like a lot, but if that's the only chance you got that day to get a little exercise in, move the joints around, and you don't take it, when are you going to get it, right? We're super busy at the conference. We kind of joke, are we doing 6 miles today or 7 miles today? But I know not everybody gets that much activity when we're at these conferences. And even traveling right now, me and you've had this debate. They need to make like collapsible, inflatable tennis shoes or something. There's nothing harder to pack in my bag than my gym shoes, but they go with me every time.
Yeah.
And whether that's I end up in the gym at the hotel, or I do get out, or if I just end up doing something in the room, it's important. And so, yeah, sometimes it's a pain in the butt to pack up those extra pair of shoes and a couple of shorts to get a workout, but it's got to happen. You're forming habits.
Yeah. Well, and you set the example. And that was my biggest pet peeve is, we all talk about, hey, we need to change this. And then there's this escalator that and I'm like, come on, you guys, this is what I want. But I think that goes back to, why there's so many people really supporting you in this position and kind of like, hopefully they support the IFC a little bit more here, is that you're all about, let's not ride that escalator anymore. Let's take the stairs, and on that way, let's have some conversations. Let's bring some more people with us and take action. So, and I appreciate the time, brother. And of course, your passion and your candid, honesty. Always love talking to you, buddy. But you're not done yet. We got to have a couple hot seat questions for you. Now, we've been asking the same kind of questions, from the last year, and we're almost getting to another year of Better Every Shift. So I might throw a couple different ones out because she's not here today. And
that's why we don't leave you unsupervised.
This is exactly why you don't leave me and you with me. But let's go. Biggest challenge you see facing the fire service today?
Biggest challenge. Let's go with recruitment and retention, and I'll roll a couple of those into that. Right. One, we got to start telling the truth about what we're recruiting people to do and what the job is. If your recruitment poster is this big, massive fire that's probably not even your fire, it's somebody else's fire, you're misleading people. Tell people what we're recruiting them for and explain to them, you are going to go pick up Mr. and Miss Smith 3 times this shift. You're going to run the same person who's got a substance abuse problem 3 times this shift. If we're promising them they're going to come in and fight fires every day, and then we send them on something else, don't be surprised in 3 years when they're burnt out and they're frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of that that we've got to do a better job is right now, there's no shortage of information out there about firefighters and cancer, firefighters and cardiac disease, firefighters in mental health problems. They're problems. Start talking about the resources that we have and the programs that we have within our organizations to prevent that. So yeah, you come into the fire service, you're going to be exposed to a lot of bad things, whether that's physically or mentally, but no, we got your back. We've got all these programs to take care of you.
Yeah.
We don't tell people that. And if we're going to recruit people, tell them the truth. And if you're going to retain them, explain to them how you're going to take care of them throughout their career, and let them enjoy that retirement that they're going to earn.
Perfect. Very well said. Be it honest, transparent, right?
Yep.
And let's talk about transparency and what we talked about. What's the biggest takeaway you want someone who is listening to this to get?
If you don't like the way things are, get involved. Get involved, whether that's in your department, whether that's in a national association. Get involved. Let your voice be heard, or in some situations, be the example. Be that person at the next conference who sees the line at the escalator and just grab 3 or 4 people and go, hey, let's do something different today. Let's go take the stairs. Let's set the example, right? And that goes back to one of those, you only get so many little moments in the day to make an impact. And, if there's 100 people in line for the escalator and you can get 2 of them to take the stairs with you, and those 2 people, the next day take the stairs, or the other 98 look at them and go, we should have took the stairs. Huge impact. Very little effort into that. Huge impact.
I want to go. Where is FRI this next year?
We'll be in Orlando in 2025.
Yeah. I want to do a podcast at the top of the stairs.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
We'll set it break, and we'll do stairs during breaks. Me and you, up and down,
and we'll have conversations with people as we go up the stairs. We'll see how many we can do. I'm liking this idea. See, you are about taking action, and we did a Spartan race together. I'm doing another one, Tough Mudder, down in Dallas. Spartan has been very supportive of what we're doing in the fire service, and you're all about action. So I want to know, where did you get that from? What are your biggest mentors, or what are the biggest positive influences in your life that really got you to a point where you're all about action, man?
Oh man, I don't know where the all about action comes from. I think that's just my nature and my character. From mentors, like I said, obviously I've already mentioned Miss Vicky. Shane Ray was another one. Tim Sindelbach, another one that's just been tremendous for me. All the way back to, coaches along the way, playing sports through high school, family members. I got an uncle who was in the fire service. Just a number of folks, man, who set examples for me of, take this opportunity and run with it. Used to work with a police chief here in Bozeman who he would always say, you make your own weather. And I repeat that one all the time, man. I could come in every day and find something that's wrong, find something that could be better. And I could walk around and kick rocks and pout about it, or I could find the positives and walk through the fire station with my head up and a good attitude, encourage other people. Because I do think positivity is extremely contagious. So you make your own weather. So if you walk around with a gray cloud over your head every day, before you know it, your rain's going to kind of start trickling over to other people. So be mindful of that.
Yeah. But your sunshine can also trickle over to other people too,
oh,
right?
Man, that sunshine can go a long way. We were talking earlier. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I had my head down. I was thinking, I was walking, and I was in a zone, and one of the firefighters on the floor just said something and kind of snapped me out of it. He's like, Chief, you're all right. You look like you're stressed. And it just reset me for a second. I was like, oh no, man. I was thinking, and I guess he noticed something, and, firefighter to the fire chief kind of called me out. He's like, Chief, you all right? It was great. So yeah, positivity, man. And that sunshine, you'd be amazed how impactful it is on other people.
Yeah. Well, looking out after each other too. I think that's always been something, you and I have talked about, and way back when we started the boy band, as Tim Sendelbeck used to call us, you and me, Jason Coy. But
Yeah.
speaking of those days, you've always had this attitude, which is why I love having you on, about self improvement. Always trying to think about how you can do something a little differently to improve. So, last question, buddy. It brings it all back to the whole meaning of the program. What are you doing right now to be better?
I think it goes back to what we've kind of hit on, in that I'm letting go of a lot of stuff within my organization and letting other people run with it. One, it's helping with my stress level, right? So it helps me with that balance that we kind of talked about, of that prioritization. But two, not only am I getting success and fulfillment in watching my folks be so successful, I'm learning from them, because, like I said, they're doing it in a much different way than I would have done it. They've got new ideas, new philosophies, and I'm learning watching them, to the point of, I'm like, tell me how you did that. Tell me why you did that. Because I'm continuing to grow. So it's kind of a two-way street. I'm helping with my stress levels. It's allowing me to prioritize things that I need to do, including that workout every morning. But I'm learning from them, and it's just really cool. And not only is it making me better, it's making our whole team here better, as everybody's kind of growing. What is it? Rising tides rise all ships, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what's going on right now for us, and I'm just super excited with it.
Well, that's an interesting concept that type A, very driven people say that in our minds, it might not make sense. But just to reiterate, you're saying, hey, to maintain balance, you might have to step back and let other people come up and allow people that opportunity. Lastly, though, you've put people in that position, right? Like you're all about mentoring your others around you. And, for those leaders, if they look around and they don't see somebody there, what piece of advice would you give them?
Brother, I forget whose quote it is, and so I apologize, but I'm going to steal it. If you think you're leading and you're out front, and you don't turn around every now and then and just make sure people are following you, you're not leading. You're just out for a walk. And so you've got to have leaders have to have followers. That's just leadership 101. And so making sure that you've got people who are bought into your vision, they understand your expectations, and that comes through communication and relationships, is critically important. Because, yeah, you may be the leader, but I think I've said this a number of times in our chat today, it takes a team, buddy. And if you don't have a team around you to pick you up when you need it, to fill those gaps when they show up, you can't do it by yourself. No one can.
No one can. Yeah, very well said, buddy. And speaking about team, if somebody wants to join the IAFC, how do they do that?
Very simple, man. IAFC.org. Go on there. There's a membership page. Click the link. We'll get you signed up. We want people who are looking for opportunities to engage, looking for opportunities to grow. We want them in the association because we need them for our future.
Yeah, and there's always a way for them to get more involved. So well said, buddy. Thank you so much. I think we made it. I don't think we let Janelle down too badly here. So hopefully, if you are listening to this, by the way, you can go to our YouTube page. You can watch this version there. You can go to Better Every Shift on firerescue1.com. There's banners all over where you can watch the actual episode. You can email us at bettereveryshift@firerescue1.com. We can relay some messages on to Chief. You can email me, let us know if we're on something or onto something. Lastly, please rate, review, and share the show. We are, I like to say we're a group of misfits that's really all about trying to help each other in the fire service, lead by example. And, as Chief Waldo said, get involved, make your own weather, brother, right? Make your own weather, be positive, and make sure that along that path you find balance. And that might even mean stepping back to let those step up around you, because it's all about learning something, doing something, and sharing something to make you and those around you better every shift. Thanks for listening, everybody.